Let's get this going. So I've achieved abs a few times throughout my life. All of those times have been after I had a baby. And so I know that it is possible in your 30s and 40s and maybe even beyond. Although the older we get, the softer our muscle tone becomes. It might be a bit harder to actually see your abs. Let's just bust a few myths before we dive straight into how to get those abs. And the myth number one lies in that title. You don't get abs, you already have abs. They are just hidden under your body fat. Now, of course, your body fat covers your muscle and it's between your muscle and your skin. Here's your muscle, there's your body fat. It could be more, it could be less. And then there'd be a layer of skin over that. And so to see your abdominal muscles, which is what abs are, they're your abdominal muscles, you need to get rid of that layer of fat that is covering them. And now the myth is spot reduction. And I'm sure most of you by now have heard me bust that myth, have heard me say you can't spot reduce. And if you listen to any reputable fitness or health or diet channel, they will all say the same. And so much of my experience talking about this topic comes from when I got up on stage and I trained under a coach with a group of female bikini competitors. And the ladies range from 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And so I know that it can be done. And I know it can be done naturally and without performance-enhancing drugs. But I also know that it is not easy to do. The process, however, is very simple, and you will hear again a lot of these fitness channels say the same thing, because the process to getting abs, it's the same, it's been the same since the dawn of time, and the overarching, the number one thing you need to think about and do is focus on your diet. So that is number one, diet, diet, diet. Now, what kind of a diet would you need to eat in order to reveal your abs, you may ask? Well, number one, you've got to be, and I've said it a million times, you've got to be in a caloric deficit.
It's energy. If you eat less energy than you burn in a day, you're going to lose weight.
You cannot shred fat or shrink fat cells or get rid of fat or lose body fat if you are in a caloric surplus. When there are surplus calories, the only way you can stay lean is if you are moving or weight training hard enough that those calories are being used for your endurance sport or to build muscle tissue. And so that may be the only case when you can be in a surplus and maybe stay lean, but in general. And I've seen this across all the fitness competitors that I've come in contact with. I did 4 bikini competitions. I've been backstage. I've spoken to them. As I said, I trained in a group. There were about, I think, 20 or 30 of us ladies under one coach, and we were all on a WhatsApp group. I know what we all went through. No one can reveal their abs if they are eating more than they are expending in a day. It's just not possible. It doesn't matter what type of diet you are following. It doesn't matter if you're doing 1 meal a day or intermittent fasting or low carb or medium carb or in between carbs or 1 day high carb, 1 day low carb, vegan, vegetarian, carnivore, whatever diet you are following, you still need to be in a caloric deficit. Now, there is a diet plan, and I have given it to you in a video, which I will link to in the description box below. There is a diet plan that I personally believe is the best. It's the best way to get lean, build muscle, stay in shape, and reveal your abs. And so I will give you a rough breakdown right here, right now. That diet plan or that way of eating is what I call the gym diet. It's called clean eating as well. Basically, you want high protein, adequate protein to build muscle. And the reason you want to think about building muscle is because your abs are a muscle. And so you do need to feed that muscle so that once the fat gets low enough, you can actually see that nice, round, full, developed muscle. But of course, you don't just do crunches to get abs. You've got your abs. Yes, you can build them a bit with exercise, but we'll get to that in the next section. But you want a diet high in protein so that all of your muscles are built, they're strong, they've got enough amino acids, enough protein, which is your building blocks. And I recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of lean or ideal body weight. So in my case, my absolute leanest body weight would be around 50 kilograms. I round that up to about 100 pounds. I'm going to try and hit about 100 grams of protein for my ideal body weight. For you, it could be 120, 130. I don't know how big, tall, muscular you are. That will vary from individual to individual. Next, you want to get clean carb sources like sweet potatoes, brown or white rice, oats, quinoa, barley, what other, sorghum. Breads are fine. If you're not gluten intolerant, pasta is also fine. You can do the high fiber ones, you can do the low fiber ones, it's okay, you'll get fiber with your vegetables, but you want to include nice, lean, clean sources of carbs. You need carbs to fuel your training if you are going to be doing some kind of training. And carbs get stored in your muscle as glycogen, and glycogen gets stored with water as well. And that gives your muscles a nice full round look, again, even for your abs. And then lastly, you will add in your fats. And your fats, you can use it for cooking and for flavor. And that should average around, for a woman, I'm going to say average, 50 grams of fat in a day. And so that is how you are going to set up your diet. Every meal must have protein, probably with most of your meals a clean carb source, unless you're doing 5 or 6 meals a day. You can mealtime however you want. Personally, I just find it easier to do 3 big meals a day, a decent breakfast, a decent lunch, and a biggish supper, and have 2 small snacks at like 10 o'clock-ish and 2 o'clock-ish. Something small, bit of protein, or a little like piece of fruit or something like that. And that is how you're going to eat, but you're going to do that within your calorie deficit, the calorie deficit that you need to lose weight. So for somebody who's only got a little bit of weight to lose, their deficit could be smaller. If you have a lot of weight to lose in order to reveal your abs, you could have a slightly bigger deficit to start with. Obviously, the leaner and leaner you get, the more you have to watch and tweak your diet and get very strict. But guys, abs are made in the kitchen. You've heard that saying before. As I've said, it is true. In every bikini competitor that I have seen, she had to tweak her diet down to the point where her abs were revealed. She had those abs, they were there, and all you need is a little bit of ab training in order to just make those muscles pop. Now, it's another sort of myth or misguided idea, because women in general, they get lines, they get the lines here, but they don't get blocks as easily. If you sit forward and crunch, you will show your blocks. So in this photo here, I'm actually doing a slight crunch. That's why you can see blocks. But if I stand up and I elongate my torso, you will just see ab lines. But to reveal either blocks or lines, you do need to be quite lean. Women that have very visible blocks, it's either genetic or most of them are on some kind of steroid when they get to the higher levels of bodybuilding bikini competitions. And so I would be careful. Don't worry about blocks as much for women. It's easier for a man to reveal blocks. It's just the way that men's abs are. Even men, if they suck in their stomach and stretch up, you won't see the blocks, but when they crunch. So when they do their ab poses, they are crunching like that and they are revealing their blocks. But even for the men, yes, you do want to build that muscle. But I mean, you don't have to build it extreme to see those blocks when you flex a bit. However, just getting ab lines is probably what most of you are wanting and what most of you would be happy with. I do get that. And so again, diet, diet, diet. Before we move on to the training, I just want to add in here, if you are serious about getting abs, do not drink alcohol. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a little bit of moderate alcohol here or there, but abs requires a certain level of strictness with your calories. So don't drink your calories. Try and eat your calories so that you're getting the nutrients, the fiber, the fullness, and then avoid alcohol, because alcohol, obviously it's empty calories. It's got a lot of calories per gram, and also it makes you want to binge eat. So it's not worth it if abs are your goal. If, of course, abs are not your goal, you don't need to worry about it. Have at it. Now, when it comes to abs, training, like I said, is not the most important thing. What you do want to do is do some general overall fitness training, some weight training, and or cardio. So your exercise will be there to complement the diet that you are being strict on, because abs are made in the kitchen. And so you will be doing a combination, ideally, of cardio and weight training. I personally would advocate about 5 days a week of weight training, let's say 45-minute sessions, and I would split it up, do a whole body split, do legs, chest, shoulders, back, biceps, triceps, and then add in abs on one of those days. You do not need to train abs every single day. You really, really don't. Once a week is fine. And for bikini competitors, what we used to do is actually avoid ab training, because we were looking to narrow our waist as much as possible. So we didn't even want a smidge of extra muscle growth in this area, because we wanted our waists to look narrow. And so, like I said, you don't really need to train your abs. You can, if you want the blocks to pop out a little bit more. It really is more about losing the fat. And of course, sadly, we can't spot reduce unless you go for liposuction. That is the only way I know to spot reduce. And so you want to keep your training in a nice zone where it's not making you too hungry, where you can stick to your diet, but you do want to get in some cardio and then some weight training. So 45 minutes of weight training 5 days a week, and then you throw in your cardio just to see how you're going with your fat loss. If you want to ramp up your fat loss, do a little bit of extra like walking or slow steady state cardio, swimming, rowing, riding your bike, any kind of thing like that. HIIT is also great. There's nothing wrong with all movement is fine. You just don't want to set up yourself to be hungry later in the day. So I would say HIIT training might do that for you. If I go for a very fast and hard run, I am hungry afterwards. If I go for a walk, I'm not really as hungry. And so you just want to balance your training for your fat loss. So make sure that your training doesn't spike your hunger, because of course, remember, for abs, you want to lose the fat. You don't want to now eat in compensation of the workout you've just done, because then it will be hard to reveal your abs. Hydration is not really that big of a deal when it comes to revealing your abdominal muscles, but like always, use your common sense, just drink to thirst, and like I say, try and avoid drinking your calories. If you do want something like a cappuccino or a smoothie or some kind of a drink, think of that as a little mini meal or a snack. Track it, see how many calories are in that drink, and then use that as part of your daily calorie count. Sleep, sleep, sleep. I know we've all heard about the importance of sleep. It is true, but again, I found the problem with sleep is that if you have a life, if you're a human being, if you're a parent, sleep will be hard to get consistent, good quality sleep because life happens. Kids get sick, they wake us up. Maybe we are sick, maybe our partner snores, maybe there's a noise, there's a door banging, there's an alarm going off, there's a dog barking. All I can say on sleep is just do your best, do your best. Don't stress about sleep. I have had abs during periods of my life when I didn't get that good of a night's sleep. 1 or 2 bad nights sleep here or there is not the enemy. It's not the worst thing in the world. So just, I think, keep your mind calm around that. But obviously, sleep does help. And now we're getting into the more nuanced areas, stress and stress reduction. There is a lot of talk about cortisol and belly fat. And yes, whilst chronically elevated cortisol levels could lead to an excessive storage in your belly area of fat, all you can do is all you can do. You're going to do the same steps no matter what your hormones are doing. You still need to be in a caloric deficit, whether your cortisol is high or normal. You still need to train. You would still need to try and sleep as well as you can. And then, most importantly, reduce your stress levels. Incorporate every single day, if you do think you have high stress levels, periods of deep breathing or meditation or relaxation or just reading a book. But deep breathing itself, if you can't focus your mind on meditation, then I would say deep breathing is your better option because you're giving yourself something to do. So you are focusing on, and then you can do the Andrew Huberman physiological sigh, which is great. That's also doing the rounds on social media. And that immediately calms you down. So you can do it along with me as I did it now. Let's do it one more time. It's so calming. It's really cool. Quick word on supplements. I wouldn't really go crazy about supplementing anything other than creatine. I find creatine is really helpful for strength in the gym. It really, really, really does work. I can feel it. And it does help me with recovery after a workout. So it's pretty inexpensive. I don't see any contraindications. Your kidneys will be safe. I would add creatine in. And if you're not getting enough fish, maybe an omega-3. But in general, there's no supplement magic out there. There's nothing that you need, like to lose fat or reveal your abs. You don't need any fancy pills. You don't need carnitine. You don't need green tea. You don't need, these are nice to haves. If you have the money and you want to spend, go for it. Carnitine, L-carnitine, green tea. What are some of the others? They're all fine, but you don't actually need any of them. Now, this is the most important part, the troubleshooting, because I think a lot of us, intellectually, we know what to do. We just can't do it. We just can't stick to it. We just find those moments in the day when we are stressed, when we are bored, when we are faced with a food choice and we make the quote unquote wrong food choice. And now, I've said before, there is no wrong foods. It's not like it's bad. It's not like you are bad for making that food choice. But we do need to maybe plan ahead for those moments when maybe we're out at a restaurant, everyone's ordering pasta dishes and pizza, and now you are coming to that, oh, what do I order? What am I going to have? And now you've got a craving. Try and remember your goal is you want to reveal your abs. I mean, you've said it by clicking on this video. And just remember, abs don't make you a better person. They don't mean anything about who you are. It's just a nice to have once in a while. It's not the be all and the end all. But okay, you want abs, you're at a restaurant. You do need to plan ahead what you are going to order. A safe thing is to order like a fillet steak, no sauces, they just grill it, no basting, with a side salad, and if they can do a baked potato, great, you're good to go. Be careful of the rice, because often they will cook the rice, but there will be oil in that rice. So often you'll take that little bowl of rice, number one, that bowl might be way too big, you might want to halve that portion, especially for ladies, and if you run your fork through that rice, you might see oil droplets on the fork. Now, there's nothing wrong with oil, but you need to count those calories in. You can't just track it as plain rice, you would have to track it as rice with oil. And then, because you don't want to break your calorie budget for the day, because then, of course, it's going to lead to a little bit of fat gain, and that little bit of fat, immediately your abs disappear. So going out to a restaurant, plan ahead. You can also order, like if you're at a breakfast, that's easy. Scrambled eggs on toast, no butter. They may scramble the eggs with oil. You can ask for them to be scrambled as lightly as possible. You could also order just egg white scrambles or an egg white omelet and just put veggies in there. So an egg white omelet, no cheese, just mushrooms, maybe onion, spinach, asparagus, whatever it is they've got on their menu. That's also a safe option. You could do that with a piece of whole wheat, brown, white, or rye toast. You could also order, now be careful of the oats, because usually the restaurants cook the oats with butter or margarine or fat, or they add cream or something to make it delicious, a lot of sugar. Again, I know it's like a minefield out there. So it's not that you can never eat at a restaurant, but you do have to plan ahead what you're going to order. And also remember, it is your right to order the food that you want to eat. If they can't accommodate you, oh well, just have one quote unquote bad meal, call it a day. But if you can, go there, ask for what you want, tell them how you want them to prepare it, and most restaurants, 9 out of 10 times, will accommodate you. Lunch, you can order a salad, a chicken salad, hold the dressing, no cheese, no croutons. Croutons are bread fried in butter or oil. You may want a piece of plain toast if you need carbs with that meal, but you can control, even at a restaurant, you can control what you eat. Sushi is a fabulous lunchtime meal, but I have seen at a sushi restaurant, they were making sushi rice there in front of us. They poured a bucket of sugar in. Yes, it was a big tub of rice that they were making, but they poured this little bucket of sugar in. So just be aware that restaurant food always has hidden sugars and hidden fats. Of course, they want to make it taste delicious, but there you go. You can eat out and still stay on track, but try not to eat out too often. Another area where you could get stuck is you are not planning ahead. So if you want abs, you do need to plan your meals ahead. Try on a Sunday afternoon. Now do this, actually do it. Pre-cook a whole lot of protein, lean steak, game, ostrich, any kind of venison, chicken breast, obviously fish, eggs, egg whites, any vegan or vegetarian sources that work with you and your diet. Pre-plan or pre-cook all your protein sources. Get that ready. You could just freeze that if you want to. And/or you can cook up your rice, your potatoes, your starch, whatever it is you've chosen, and then your vegetables as well. I always say include some fiber with every meal, and then you can pre-package your meals for the week, freeze some of them, all of them, half of them, and then you've got meals ready to go. Take it out the fridge, take it out the freezer, and then you are prepared. Because again, troubleshooting, when you are bored, emotional, hungry, tired, you will want to reach for the wrong foods. If you've got the healthy food there, you may still reach for the wrong food, but at least now you're like, oh, it's there, it's easier, ready to go. You're more likely to make the healthy choice. Little tips for eating that may also help, because obviously the lower in body fat you get, the more your body is sending you hunger signals, the harder it is to stick to your diet. Sometimes the harder it is to eat all those clean meals, you do start to crave maybe the fatty foods, the wrong foods, the cakes, the biscuits, the chips, the sweets, whatever. Eat slowly and eat mindfully in those moments, because then you register your fullness. You also appreciate your food. You are not mindlessly just sitting in front of the TV eating, and so that really can help. I know it sounds like a small thing, but it does work. Also, don't underestimate the power of chewing your food properly. There's another little simple tip. If you find by the evening you want to sit and snack late at night, after your last evening meal, just brush your teeth. It's more unlikely that you will sit and snack if your teeth are brushed. Now you've got to number one, the toothpaste makes all food taste gross afterwards, and now you know you've got to brush your teeth again. So it's a small tip. It might help you. I don't know. While we're talking about the food and the dieting, another tip is please do not crash diet to try and see abs, to try and get lean. You can. It's not that you can't, but I would say you are more likely to then fall off the bandwagon and binge because you've had this big deficit in your calories. Rather create small deficits over a long period of time. And by long period, I don't mean you need to do this for years, but let's say over a 3-month period, you create a small daily deficit. If by chance you have a bad day, a cheat meal, a pizza, a pasta, a cake, whatever, don't worry about it. Don't stress. It's okay. Rome wasn't built in a day. Slow and steady wins the race. One bad meal out of a week, it's not the end of the world. You can use those extra calories to your advantage, push a little heavier at the gym, go for a walk. You can actually use those calories to build muscle tissue. So don't sweat it, but don't make that a regular habit. Otherwise, you won't see your abs probably for quite a long time. Now, obviously, you can measure your progress purely by what you see in the mirror, but I would also say using a tape measure is a really good indicator of progress for your abs, especially because that is the fat that you want to lose. Yes, we lose fat overall, but it's very exciting when you see that tape measure, even if it's like 2 mils or half a centimeter, eventually it'll be a centimeter. It is very motivating. Sometimes the actual scale can be demotivating because there is things like water weight, there is things like hormonal fluctuation, especially for us ladies around that time of the month. There is, if we have too much sodium, we'll hold a bit more water. There's also a little bit of inflammation if we've overtrained. Now I'm talking a couple of pounds. None of these are going to go into like 10, 12, 20 pounds. You're not going to carry that much water weight or drop it either. Fluctuations in water weight are not going to be in the realm of like 20 pounds. You're not going to suddenly drop or gain 20 pounds of water weight. But in general, the weight can fluctuate based on different things. But a tape measure is pretty darn reliable. And then, of course, just looking in the mirror every day. And when you start to see little lines, you start to see a little bit of definition, that can be really exciting and really motivating. I just want to bust the last myth. You cannot use you can use a waist trainer to make your waist appear smaller, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're losing fat over your abs. The waist trainer can train your tissues, your muscles, your organs to sort of sit in a different place. That's fine. A lot of bikini competitors do use that, and then they do what's called the vacuum exercises where they suck in and they train their abdominal sort of cavity to pull back and in. That can make your waist appear smaller, but that's different to revealing your abs. And so the true way to get abs is through fat loss, and the best way to lose fat is through what I call a gym diet. So lean, clean protein sources, clean carbs, lower in fat, and then do some training to support your muscle building goals. And of course, you want to build muscle as well, not only for your overall health and your longevity and to see your abs, but your muscles soak up all the sugars, and the more muscle you have, the higher your resting basal metabolic rate is. So it's a win-win all around. You're also going to be fitter. It's just good for you overall. So I wouldn't ever exclude the training, but the training will now support the diet to reveal your abs. And the last point I just have to touch on is that there are different body types. You get the pear shape, the apple shape, and then you get variations on those two themes. If you are an apple-shaped woman, it is going to be harder for you to actually reveal those abs than for someone like me who is a pear shape. Most of my body fat is stored from the hips down. I am naturally leaner on my upper body, and my abs get revealed fairly quickly. So for me, to get lean legs would be really hard. But even for an apple shape, it's just about getting your body fat down to the point where you can see your abdominal muscles or your abdominal walls. And so it just takes dedication, it takes focus, it takes consistency. It does take time. And for some of you, it may not be a journey that's worth it. For some of you, you may think, you know what, this is quite difficult, especially when you start getting to lower levels of body fat. Some people find it harder than others. It also just depends on your lifestyle. It depends on where you are at in your life and whether this is a goal that's important to you, because it may not be. Maybe you thought it was important to you. You want to look good in a bikini, you want to show your abs, and then you find that now you're getting towards the end of this journey, it's becoming miserable. Maybe you see your lines, you can't see anything else, and you just say, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to stop here. And that is perfectly okay as well. Don't get lost in this idea because of fitness influencers on social media. I can guarantee you that your life will not really change or improve in any significant way. The people that love you for who you are. It's a fun goal to strive for. I won't lie, it feels really cool when you can see your abs. It is awesome, but it's not the be-all and the end-all. And lastly, it's hard to stay there. So whilst the process is simple, it's really about a caloric deficit, and I would include some training just to make sure that your health and your muscles and everything's firing nicely. It's diet and exercise. That is simple. But what makes it hard to do is all these roadblocks along the way: temptations, birthday parties, nights out, saying no to alcohol, that cheesecake that your friend's eating that you also want to eat, the late night binge eating while you're watching TV. That is what is hard to do. It's hard to be consistent. It's hard to be disciplined. It's hard to do this day in and day out for a long period of time. It could become a lifestyle, and it really could become addictive, and it could become a habit. A lot of that will depend on your psychology, and it will depend on where you're at in your life, how much time and mental energy you have to dedicate to this. But try and make the process fun. Try and enjoy getting into the best shape of your life, because really I think that's what abs signifies for a lot of us. It signifies us getting into our best shape for our body type, for our life. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.